come to know and understand is that educational leadership looks different in different contexts. It looks different in family daycare as it does in school aged care settings. It looks different in city locations as it does in rural and remote locations. What we also know is that education leaders are carving out a really important place in thinking about what practice looks like, how we can shape it into the future, and how we can deliver really strong outcomes for children and their families in particular settings. What you're about to hear is a number of voices. They are a range of people. Some of them are educational leaders, some of them support educational leaders, some of them are being led by educational leaders. Each of them bring a particular perspective on the work of an educational leader and what it means to have an educational leader in their setting. Each of them will tell you a little bit about what they think an educational leader does, how they can support teams, how they can deliver quality. Each of them also have particular understandings of what would make that role better, how we can strengthen it into the future, and what advice they might give to people who are beginning that process. We hope that what you'll hear helps you to think about your role as an educational leader, how you might support educational leaders, and how we might consider educational leadership into the future.
So in supporting educational leaders, my role as head of campus at Beacon Hills College, we're an independent school and we're a large organisation, so we need to ensure that we have a number of educational leaders to support pedagogy and practice in being able to deliver excellent program. We are rated excellent, so therefore that opportunity to look at practice and really support up and coming leaders is important. So we have a head of teaching and learning that oversees pedagogy and practice. We also have a deputy head that supports wellbeing of families, staff and students. And we also have the opportunity for within each room an educational leader. So they oversee the pedagogy and practice within the environment, they write curriculum for the children, they're a key liaison for the family, but they also oversee the mentoring and support of the staff within the program. And that way, with the development of the head of teaching and learning, we have programs that support them in getting a really clear message across as to what is quality practice and how do we support families and working in collaboration to be able to achieve those goals.
Being an educational leader is a mixed bag. You need to have a great many hats and you need to be super open to being super flexible. An educational leader is not my role. It's a role that I can undertake for me, 35 people. So I need to almost have 35 hats and be able to approach it 35 different ways to suit the learning styles of the people that I'm working with. It's exactly the same way we educate children. You know, we have individualised learning plans for children, we have individual teaching approaches for children. We kind of forget that we can apply the same strategies to each other, to our colleagues. So that's kind of what I love most about being an educational leader. It's like living in Queensland, no 2 days are the same.
So within our service, what we've done right from the very beginning is that we've deemed it to be a rotational role as well. So it's not just because, I think initially the person who was nominated, she had been with our service the longest amount of time. She had, at the time, I think it was like 25 years, she'd been within our service. So and she was accepting of the role. She took it on board like it was a challenge, but also that it was something that she could really sink her teeth into. And she wasn't scared of it either, so that was an added bonus. And since then, we've had our current educational leader, Pavneet, is our third one that we've had within our service, and she's just grown with it. And once again, I think from also my perspective as far as supporting her and any educational leader is that it's sometimes being thrown in the deep end. And being open to opportunities as well, and being able to be a good communicator and be able to share that not only with the staff but also our educators and also other services as well, because we do network. We've got a good relationship with our centres within Glen Ira and also within the other services amongst the early childhood field.
I'd say namely the support comes through being a really open communicator, having a real flow of information, instruction, and also being open to feedback and questioning from them as well. Also being available, I guess, in the essence of being present physically in their settings on the floor, but also mentally present as well, you know, when you're having these conversations with people and really listening to them and tuning in to what they've got to say and what areas you can support them in, whether it's a practical aspect to do with their teaching level, or whether it's more a theoretical or just general well-being as well. Yeah.
So my role as educational leader is at Gary, Victoria and Docklands. I've got a bit of a specific role where I work with the 0 to 3, and I do have a co-worker that has responsibility for the 3 to 5 programme. We decided to have a 0 to 3 educational leader because the learning is quite different. It's more emotion based, it's more social based. The 0 to 3 is where the life skills start, and we just really felt that it was important that we work with the educators to set that mindset and to really build the capability of educators to see that school readiness and life begins when you're 0. It begins when you're born. It doesn't begin when you get to kindergarten or preschool.
For me, being an educational leader is very rewarding. You really get to find your passions as an educator again. You really get to hone in on different research and different things that are going on within the early childhood space, and bring that back into an organisation, a centre, and use that as a driving force for change, for igniting passion in others, and really pushing early childhood education and your own philosophies and teachings to the forefront. And through that, you really get to know yourself as a person and hone in on those leadership skills that you might not know are inside you. And you get to mentor and coach beautiful educators in different ways and get to know how each person works, all the intricate things that you wouldn't normally get to do if you were consistently on the floor or within, say, a director's role, that you have so much different admin aspects on top of the role as well. You get to connect with parents and children in ways that you don't as an on-the-floor educator as much. Because they see you as that person that's coming in with knowledge and with a different form of respect. You're in that in-between space of, I'm kind of here in admin and office, but I'm also kind of on the floor. You're that in-between space. And you really bridge the gap between educators that might feel a little bit overwhelmed or exhausted with things, and directors and approved providers or early childhood governing bodies that have different perspectives that you try and translate between them both.
So I am currently the educational leader of 9 kindergartens. They're local, place-based, so I find that I'm able to get to services quite quickly because we're in the same local government area. I guess my role as the educational leader is really to provoke thinking and to inspire deeper thought and get people to think about doing things in a different way to the way they've always done things. So, some people might call me the pot stirrer. My job is to go into the meetings. I attend all of the team meetings with staff and we talk about our practice. And my job is to say, so why do you do it that way? Could there be another way that you could do that? And get people to think on a deeper level. Another element, I guess, of educational leadership is getting people to be champions for the practices that we actually do deliver that lead to quality outcomes for children. So I would expect to support my leadership team to actually then inspire others. So it has a ripple effect. I feel like my role is to set the tone and then their role is to help deliver the message and to support educators at all level to hold each other accountable for their practice, to challenge thinking and to challenge practice and to say to somebody, I'm not sure that I was comfortable with the way that you did that then, can we talk about maybe another way that we could go about doing it? Keeping the child at the focus and how we can support children and children's rights to be involved in some of those reflective conversations as well. So now we have educators that will run morning meetings with children rather than a group time where we do show and tell. Now we actually have meetings with children where we say, we're going out into the community today, but let's talk about the best ways to stay safe. And we're getting them to think more deeply too about their involvement in the program.
So it's really about just making sure we've got some support for them. So in terms of if they've got questions or they can contact us at any time. looking at all of the frameworks and all of those types of things and just guiding them through that as well.
I think for me the support of the educational leaders in my role as pedagogical leader at Moonee Valley provides an opportunity to set some frameworks for what we can do. So what we've done in the past is we've set groups of reflective learning circles for a whole year. So there were some consistent approaches where educational leaders came together as a community of learners and they were able to share contemporary practice and ideas, then take them back to their teams and then build on that, which then they could put into their quality improvement plans or talk about in their staff team meetings.
So I get all the information about current ideas and what's happening around the industry, where we're heading towards, what are the main goals and how we succeed to the next level. It's always good to have an educational leader because the staff who had a education long back, that person comes as a sportive, as a teacher, as a mentor to guide the whole team to come together. But always it's a problem with the time, how much time the management offers to them. It's always been like whenever we need a time, it's not much enough. It's a quick discussions with them to come and start again. Having maybe more time in there and enough resources for education leaders will help us more to understand as well. And this is what I feel like even the management should do and the government should do. Their role is very crucial to support us because our knowledge is based on 2 years back uni studies and we need more information about what's happening and we need a physical person available at the floor all the times for us that we can go to and ask every time. That's all.
Challenging in some ways, I think, because it's you're working with very different teaching styles often, different types of personalities, and I think one of the first things you need to do is to work with teachers as people rather than as an advisor, and particularly when you're working with people who've been in the service a lot longer than you maybe. I think as an education leader that's often very challenging to ask questions about their practice.
For me, to having an education leader in my the kindergarten to assist me with all the new research and implement all those practices into the kindergarten program. For those areas I really appreciate her help, having her next to me.
So the impact for us of having an educational leader has been a really positive one. One, they inform me of the practice of my educators and whether they need extra support. She also guides and supports the educators with their programming and to help them with reflective practice so that they can always improve or also acknowledge their achievements as well of what they do with their planning.
For me, being an educational leader it's challenging, but it's a good challenge. It gives me the opportunity to pass on the skills that I've learned, but also to develop and learn different skills from different people. Everyone has a very different way of doing and seeing things, so being able to pick out the good parts and the strengths and then put them all into one and share that around is definitely great. And being able to engage in lots of research and pass on that knowledge and really develop on people's strengths.
For educational leaders.
Yeah, so as a approved provider, supporting the educational leaders is about giving them time, making sure that they've got enough time to work with the educators that they have been assigned to. We have 3 in my service to allow us to work in specialty areas as well. I think it's about giving them the spaces where they have strengths, so whether it be under 3s or over 3s, and also ensuring that they're developing their leadership skills through trainings and PD.
So for me, being an educational leader, I think it's a really interesting position, especially coming from off the floor. There's sort of an implication that you are perhaps more knowledgeable or better than everyone else. So I think it's really important to show respect and really listen in that position.
I think the impact of the educational leader has been in being a conduit between critical thinking and creativity. So the educational leader has come into services and settings and has been that between space and has filled that between space that the educators and the teachers are looking for something innovative and new and creative,
and a way of thinking critically about their practice, but at the same time they've been able to help them with innovation and creativity and to work on their programs and their practice in a way that has been sort of outside the space that they might have already been working in.
I think that the educational leader is an essential job because they drive the vision of the organisation and the curriculum. I think that to be an educational leader means to motivate and work with teachers and educators to get the best outcomes for children. So the impact on the sector that has is huge because it's difficult sometimes for teachers who are working a lot to keep their finger on the pulse of changes in the field and to make sure that the things that they're doing have vision and drive because they're doing the day-to-day things. So involvement in critical reflection with teachers and educators is also really important.
I think the way that she supported me is just by being open and honest and friendly as well, and not being judgmental, and understanding the difficulties that we have in our day-to-day professions, and then being able to just be there to support us.
So having recently been hands-on herself, she knows about those day-to-day scenarios that really there's never a perfect textbook day. Every day is different, and to go with the flow and be resilient, that's such a strength as a leader, but also we need to use that working with our children and families because every day is different.
The greatest impact of having an educational leader in our program is obviously enhancement of the entire curriculum and the program in general. I guess one of the things that's really crucial is the fact that you work alongside somebody and you're actually being able to kind of forward the common goals around the educational program because you have this person who can actually, that's their portfolio, that's what they do, that's their specialist area of learning as well as of leading.
Okay, well, as Director of the service, the educational leader has not only been a fantastic aid to incorporating management and involving management in the requirements and educational programs and everything that we as an organisation require to do, but also has been a fantastic support in mentoring staff. I think how you achieve that is to make sure that you allow plenty of time for the educational leader to spend times in the room, not as part of the ratio, so that all staff of all levels can tap into that experience and knowledge and feel that they are being empowered.
Recruitment of educational leaders is very challenging. We're looking for people that are passionate, that come with ideas, that they understand the core values of the organisation, but that they're actually going to challenge us in an appropriate professional way, that they're going to look at what is the next bit of research, what are we looking at to really underpin our foundation, and then how do they lead people around that. So passion, experience, and I guess experience is a range of experience. It's not always just in early childhood, but a range of life experiences. And in our educational leaders, we look at then the pathways for them to develop as well with that mentoring. So it's not always about the experience that they've had within the profession, it's the experiences that they've had in life, but their openness to what is possible and how they may create that. And sometimes it's just that spark that you see with someone that's very young with not a lot of experience to say, we can support you to grow and to develop into being an amazing leader.
Well, it's something that was applied to me by one of my mentors, which absolutely annoyed the pants off me in the beginning, but I now do it and annoy the pants off everybody else. And that is to answer a question with a question. And it's that whole idea of driving inquiry. I'm always there to support, but I'm here to support you finding the answer as opposed to supporting by giving the answer, because that then doesn't build capacity for anybody.
Wanting someone who is motivated, who is doesn't need to be told what to do or be directed, I think you should be researching information in this area here. Kind of like a self-starter, someone who is able, who, once again, got the enthusiasm, a self-starter, and someone who wants to learn themselves as well and has that enthusiasm, because our educational leader is very bright and bubbly and very positive. So I think if you've got those attributes, of course, you can't be bright and bubbly all the time. You've got to have your serious side as well, but you've got to be a combo. You've got to be this wonderful person who is communicating, sharing, enthusiastic, and wanting to learn themselves as well.
Yes, well actually I myself am a new person to the role of educational leader in a formal sense. I'd say just build on your own skills, be grounded in what you know your capabilities are, and don't feel overwhelmed by the list of jobs that suddenly appear and the responsibilities that you may not have been aware of that you even had. So just also finding mentors within your space as well. I'm very fortunate to be part of a larger setting. We're on site with a college, and so I sort of lean on the leadership team within the college as well to guide me. Yeah.
I would say don't try and fix all the problems at once. Assess your priorities. Say nothing initially, just go in and watch, make lots of notes, and really get a feel for who your educators are and what is going to help those individual educators. You can't go in there with that, I am the educational leader, I have the knowledge and I'm going to tell you, because it's not going to work for you.
Take your time, breathe, really get to know the space that you're in first, really understand how organisation works, where they sit in terms of philosophy and their thoughts and their teaching styles and what they look to provide. Really try and grasp that aspect and then see where their passions are and look for how they want to learn as educators, get their input as much as possible, and be that support. As you would with any aspect of trying to change an organisation or implement change, really take that step back and understand the full scope before you come in and go, okay, we're going to try A, B, C, D. You really understand what you want to do and bring in as well. Have a knowledge base where you can really have a lot of tools that you can bring to the table, and really then use that to work in to different projects, different aspects of things that are already there, and just looking at them in a different way. Yeah, I think that would be it.
My advice, whether it's an educational leader, an educator, a CEO, it's build the relationship, know your people, learn where people come from, and from there you're then able to challenge practice. If you don't have that relationship with people first, if you don't have the trust, if people can't put their trust in you, they will never be guided by you. So you've got to start there. If you don't have that, you've got nothing.
I think you need to be a people person. I think you need to be somebody that is warm, that is safe, a safe person, a trusting person that you can encourage others, because what the role of educational leader really is about building capacity. So it's about empowering others and finding their strengths. So it's not about telling people what to do, but it's to support them and encourage them. So I think that's a fairly significant one. Obviously you need to have a fairly high pedagogy and practice of yourself. And that you're not alone on that journey. I think educational leaders need to be supported by your leadership and governance people.
Look, I think for me it's around people who can look outside the square, because I think pedagogy is all about not doing things the way we've always done it, just because we did daffodils because it's spring doesn't mean that's what we need to do now. So yeah, I think for me that's a really strong skill about people just being able to look outside the square and working with staff to then encourage new ideas and ways of doing things.
I think for someone starting as an educational leader, I think one of the really important things is to not feel like you've got to have answers for everything. Actually, I think one of the roles is that you're actually helping teachers think about what they're doing. So it's about wondering with them rather than feeling like you need to know things.
I think she should be open to the latest research and what's happening in the in the industry, and having that understanding of all different practices and the approaches, having good understanding about the framework and the other related, the teaching strategies and stuff, and as well as having good personality, building good relationship with the educators, and allowing them to develop their leadership under her leadership. I think that's very important as a education leader.
This person that we have has a true passion for education, and that's what really stood out for us, because she actually took over a position from someone else who at the time just couldn't manage that with another role, and she just, education's just at the forefront, and learning, children's interests, and just a very open-minded person as well, always willing to learn new things. And I think that's what she loves about her role. So,
I think develop a relationship with the people you're working with, and think about, for me it was really important to know the different personalities of people and think about what it is that really inspires me. I think if you want to be an educational leader, then you should go for it, and do lots of reading and think about your passions and the passions of everybody else as well. So,
to be honest, I'm looking for someone that has a personality of people. So knowledge is very important, but I also think it's something you're learning constantly. So there's always new stuff that's coming out and you're learning and researching. So I'm looking for somebody that I can support in being an exceptional leader and mentor to inspire others, not to monitor, if that makes sense, yeah.
So putting your hat on and thinking about everybody's, putting the child in the centre, so thinking that you're representing the child all the time, makes it really useful, because then you can just think we're all working together, we're all working on the same side, because the child's at the centre of all this. So it's about listening and advocating for children.
The people that should be recruited into these roles are those that have the capability and the capacity to make those connections between theory and practice. So it doesn't necessarily have to be anybody of a certain qualification. I think anyone has the capacity to do it, as long as they're motivated and they feel like they can actually guide those educators and teachers in their practice, be an embedded persona within the setting that's going to actually provide a framework and the support that those educators need.
It is difficult. I think it is difficult to have challenging conversations with your peers, especially if you are a peer and then you step up into the role of a leadership role, because they become something different then. So I would suggest getting some support from a mentor, getting some coaching to have difficult conversations, and whenever I'm having a conversation that is difficult, I write a script. So I practice and I really think before I do it, and I check it with someone, but I think that they are difficult, but you need to do it. It's really important. And I think in the sector we need to get better at having critical reflection that is based on reciprocal conversations that people don't take personally. So we have to get better at that. And the more that we do it, the better that we'll get.
I think to listen to the teachers that are there and try and empathise as well with us.
Listen to what is actually happening in their services, because across each service there will be many differences from one suburb to another, from one centre to another. The dynamics are always really variable. So I think listening and that supportive role, that collegiality. It's not a judgmental role, it's a supportive professional role.
I guess the education leader has to have a lot of the similar qualities as any good leader. So when I think about that part of it, it's all the leadership qualities. So something around being able to collaborate, being able to strongly lead, being able to work with common goals, things like that are really, really important. Along with that, obviously, is all the educational side of it, obviously having the right qualifications, having the ability to be able to apply the research in the workplace, things like that, as well as mentoring and coaching, I think is a really crucial part. In a traditional model, we didn't have an educational leader. When I look back now, it has enhanced the sector hugely. And from a director's point of view, it has totally changed how we actually lead these organisations.
I would say that in supporting an educational leader, a director has to really work very closely with that person and meet very regularly and agree on common goals of how we can raise the benchmark, not only for our services but for the sector. And from there, work together as a solid team in communicating that, not only working with your educational team, but also to the families, to the management, who are often voluntary people, and also to the local community.